what happens is when you're 45, 48 years old and you're still angry and you have that anger about when you were 10, you need to understand is like, do you need the 10-year-old driving your business, the 10-year-old driving your family, the 10-year-old driving your car? It's like, you got to go back to that 10-year-old and you have to make peace and talk to the 10-year-old and get that 10-year-old on track. You have to accept them for what they are, how they feel, but let them know that you're now driving the car and where it is that you're going. Because that 10-year-old will take you in all different directions. And we have all these experiences and parts that we let drive.
It's time to get inside your own head. Begin with the psychology behind your behaviors. Infuse it with an acute understanding of self-awareness, emotion, storytelling, body language, and more. Then look at it all through the lens of the latest neuroscience research, broken down to its most digestible form. And you've arrived. Enhanced messaging, deeper connection, heightened influence, and a greater impact on the world. Welcome to the AMPLIFII podcast with René Rodriguez.
All right, welcome everyone to the AMPLIFII podcast. And today I get to actually interview not only a dear friend, but somebody that I have massive amounts of respect for. His name is JJ Mazzo. He's one of the executive vice presidents of Cross Country Mortgage, one of the largest, if not the largest retail mortgage banks in the country. But what I'm excited about is that I get to talk about his book. Something that he and I have been talking about. He's been sharing this idea with me, his dream to get this done. I've watched him go through the process, and watching this thing come to life has been great because here's somebody who wrote a book who lives exactly what's in it. And so we're going to talk about this, and we're going to go through the elements, the things behind it, but I want you to get to know who he is. Now, let me give you a backdrop real quick. JJ has been in the mortgage industry for over 28 years, and if you wait to hear this number, he has produced personally over $7 billion in volume in his career. That's a massive amount of money. His division is well over $1 billion. He still personally produces over $100 million every year. And so you're going to hear from somebody who is not a theorist. You're going to hear from somebody who is in the trenches, getting things done on a daily basis. And to me, that is exciting. And whether or not you're in the mortgage industry, this is not mortgage specific. This isn't real estate specific. This is life and business specific. And this whole idea around perseverance and the principles where you break it down to say, you know what, if there's one thing that we all want is to persevere through the difficulties. I think as Emerson said, adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it. And so who are we and how do we manufacture that perseverance gene, muscle, whatever it is in us? And that's what we're going to talk about here today. So let's get into the details. JJ, how are you, brother?
Oh, man, thanks for having me, buddy. I appreciate it. Thanks for the accolades. I mean, those numbers are crazy when we were talking about it, but again, it's more we than I. I mean, there's so many people involved in hitting those things in the division and personal production, so I'm grateful for them, but a lot has changed as far as those defining me more than other things. Thus kind of this book. So thank you for being an amazing part of it and just a human being and piece of my life.
Absolutely, man. But it's been more than mutual. So let's start with defining in your own words, perseverance, because obviously it's easy. We hear these words all the time, even like influence, we hear it all the time, but I always wanted to define it. You had a really, really powerful look and opinion and experience around perseverance.
Yeah. Doing hard shit anyways. I mean, I think that's the easiest way to define it. I think we all have perseverance. It's just, we decide when it is that we want to pull it out. Some people have a choice and can pull it out when they want to. Other people don't have a choice and have to pull it out to survive certain situations, but I see it in people all the time. I think that's what this book was really there to hopefully inspire people to be inspired by themselves. Not so much my story, but looking at my story, and some people will be like, oh man, that story is a lot. And some people are going to say that story is nothing, and it's somewhere in between. Everyone will be. And I think we're all the same, but we forget those things. We tuck those things deep down. And so, that's what I hope this book really inspires. And then looking back, getting some principles that I find that I was going through that I didn't realize I was learning in retrospect, how to use those principles, constantly and use them as an anchor to go back to.
So let's go back to what you said, because it was so simple. Doing hard shit anyways. So one, I want to talk about what does hard shit mean? And two, what is anyways? Meaning, why anyways? What's define hard shit? And then
hard shit,
why the word anyway?
Yeah. I think hard shit is things that you don't want to do. That's it. Just things that you don't want to do or you don't want to be going through or you don't want to have happening to you. That's hard shit. And doing it anyways, which is, instead of wallowing in self-pity, which you can do for a period of time, right? I mean, we can all sit there and reflect and be upset and angry or sad or whatever else. There's nothing wrong with feeling. But I think moving forward from that is doing it anyway. So I think it's the combination of going through things you don't want to go through and moving forward through them anyways.
And so, like, when I think of hard things, getting up early, going to the gym, saying no to certain foods and eating clean, picking up the phone, making phone calls when you don't want to, having difficult conversations, remaining silent when you feel like you need to defend, doing things that you're pushing, desire your impulses to do this, but to move this way. Is that fair to say that instead of moving a different way, something that isn't as immediately gratifying?
Correct, which is not easy to do in this world because everything's at a push of a button. The thoughts
Mm,
are coming constantly. I struggle with this every day. I struggle with this, I don't know, about 500 times this morning with different things. And I think all those examples that you had given there are micro examples and macro examples, which is getting up and working out. Okay, well, that's a micro example of persevering through maybe losing 100 pounds, which is your health and not dying. That's massive perseverance, or making phone calls when you don't want to, which is a micro habit example of getting out of being broke. And that is persevering through some major, maybe financial hardships.
yeah.
So, that's where looking at principle 6, which is stacking consistent wins. And then number 3, which is putting plans into practice. You have to know what are the micros that you have to do, and then stacking those over and over and over again to push forward. I think health's an easy example, work's an easy example.
Mm. I love that you said I had 500 battles this morning already. And I think it's easy, to say, well, JJ's got to have it easy. I mean, like dude, it comes natural to you, right? And when you know your story, you realize none of this was natural to you. Like
No.
none of this was natural to you. And this whole perceived, I was at this VIP celebrity dinner deal, whatever, with Dave Meltzer and a bunch of other people after the Aspire event. And they said, they were saying, well, people of your success and, how did you get to be successful? And I was sitting there and I got emotional because I'm going, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Success. I mean, I don't ever believe in being a success. I have had many successes, but I've had so many failures. So what does a success mean? Maybe it's just having one more success than a failure. Maybe it's just having one more, getting up, falling down 7, getting up 8. Maybe that's success. But I love it when somebody as perceived to be so successful financially and all these other things still struggle with 500 temptations, things that you struggle over, reasons to quit on just mid morning on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I think people
mean,
forget that.
we're human, right? I think success is defined by the person who's asking it. Meaning, if I'm financially free and the person asking me is broke, then they'd probably perceive me as successful. But if they have a closer walk with God and they're asking me, hey, how successful are you in comparison? I may be not successful at all compared to them.
Mm,
So I think it really is more from not the person who's answering as much as it is from the perception of the person who's asking.
that solved my question for me. I've been trying to, why am I wrestling with this? I'm going to take that, steal it, and quote you, that success is defined by the person who's asking. That's really, really good. Because I think we got to be careful of being, I am successful. In what? Wonderful. Great. In what?
Yeah, and over here, by the way, you suck, and that's us
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we're constantly, we're still, unless you're a narcissist, a full blown, which all salespeople kind of are a little bit, don't get me wrong. But I mean, unless you're like full blown, we're all still trying to define our own success in something. And every
Yeah.
time you hit a goal, and I don't care, I see the top mortgage professionals or top in any field, you hit a goal and then it's like, okay, now what? What's next?
Now what?
What's next? Right. And so I think we're all chasing what's that version of success. And for me, I think the easiest thing to do is just be better than I was the year before or the week before. And I think that's where people struggle, is just self-worth and, their past and removing from their past and, being in the present. because it's easy to be pulled in either direction.
Yeah. Isn't that the best? To me, it's like I love and admire people that are successful in certain areas, and I also thoroughly enjoy the conversations of where they're struggling and where we are struggling, because that's where I think the reality and the opportunities lie. And I think you nailed it too by saying that once you reach these moments of success, it's followed by, okay, what's next? And you think, we pursue life, this pursuit of dopamine, because if people say it's a pursuit of happiness, no, it's a lot of times we're pursuing dopamine, which is a very quick hit and actually very misunderstood. But we think the pleasure is in the achievement of the beach home. And so we pursue this. So let me back up. Dopamine is secreted in the anticipation of reward. It's not in the reward itself. And so if I have a vision, that creates anticipation. If I can see a food that I really like, that's anticipation. I can see that person I can't wait to hang out with, that vacation coming, that everything prior to that is dopamine. Soon as the dopamine, the beach home is achieved, the food is consumed, dopamine drops through the floor. And so happiness isn't there anymore. So the moment of happiness, quote unquote, was fleeting. The pursuit of the happy was actually enjoyable. And so people say, what's the pursuit of happy or pursuit of pleasure? But really it's about finding pleasure in the pursuit. And so really the most pleasurable, most fulfilling times is in a pursuit of something meaningful. If you change the meaningful part, pursuit of something material, and you accumulate the material. In fact, that was one of my favorite conversations when we first met. You told me something, I'm going to come back to it. The constant pursuit of the material, you realize it's meaningless. So suffer sacrifice for no meaning is depressing and defeating. But the pursuit and the suffering and sacrifice and the pursuit of meaningful things is completely fulfilling. So when we met, we were in your truck, I'll never forget it. And we decided, everybody told us what you and I had to talk. We finally met. And you're like, yeah, I just sold my Lambos. I just sold this. And I just drive my pickup truck now. I look at this guy. I'm like, that was really cool. Why did you do that?
Why did I do that at the time? Well, at the time, that's right when the market shifted again. And I'm one of those people, and I need to work on that. It's always anticipating the next bad thing happening. And I hate that. It's something that I have to constantly work on. And that really comes from my childhood and working through those things. So, at that point, I was actually pretty mentally prepared. We had such a good run for such a long time. I had to make the decision to make some adjustments in our business and lay a bunch of people off. There was no way around it in order to survive when rates go from, 3% to 8% in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And I just felt disgusting, and it's not that I didn't earn them and I didn't deserve them and all that stuff that you can tell yourself, but it all just kind of felt meaningless when you have other people that are going to be struggling to put food on their tables. And so it was a pivoting point for me from, living my life, and I still don't worry. I mean, I love cars and all that stuff, but it was really, for me, that was a decision that I needed to make to change from a handing of a life of greed to a life of purpose. And, so there are three parts to my life in this business. There was survival for a long time. And then you get out of survival and you realize that, which is funny because you don't realize it until you're well out of survival. And then there's greed, where now you're just doing it to win, prove people, accumulate things. And then there's the Solomon awakening, which is, Solomon is the richest person to ever exist in more ways than one. And, I believe it was him that said, this is all meaningless. You get to a point you're like, this is so meaningless in so many ways. And that was for me into transfer into more purpose. And that was really a transformation. My father had passed right around the same time. He was 90, I was 45. So it's like really a midlife reflection. And look at what I did the first 45 years. If I'm lucky enough to live the second 45 like my father, what is that going to look like? And what do I need to make up for? And, I was 75 pounds overweight at that time. There were a lot of things that kind of came to a head. And I think that's where the Holy Spirit really poured into me and said, all right, cool, let's do this. Let's change course correct, and go a different direction. And so those were just things that I needed to prove to myself. And listen, I was very used to growing up, having things and then having them gone. I mean, my dad was notorious at that, living in a house and then living in a hotel, and then having nice cars and then having one car to share for everybody. And, having a place with furniture and then no furniture inside. That was just the instability that I grew up with. So I was fairly used to it, but this one was just a little little different for me. And again, I like nice things. I'll probably get one of those cars again, but the purpose behind it and the meaning behind it, what it brought me then versus what it would bring me now are completely different things.
What I'm hearing you say is there was an integrity to it too as well. If you're gonna take a step back, so am I.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
that we've heard about that from so many leaders. Oh, we don't have the budget, but then they're on their yachts, and it's just even the simple. But I think it was a personal integrity because you didn't tell anybody you did that. You didn't post it on social media. You didn't announce it to the people. You just did it for yourself. And I remember that was one of our first conversations. And when I immediately admired you because we were having a deep conversation about other things. And I was like, this is a man who truly lives by things that are much deeper principle. And you and I are very similar too, because we are also driven by fear in certain things. And it's something we do need to work on. But yet it's that gift and the curse of saying you're anticipating that next bad thing, which makes you think ahead and plan and be very, like a prophet, not a prophet, but it's like, I got to think ahead and plan, which is really good. But then when we live in it, it can be really tough.
right.
That healthy balance of it, because I'm good at what I do because of the massive fear of what I used to be like.
Yeah, that's it.
And
I mean, the integrity thing, it's like, all right, listen, do I have integrity all the time? Probably not. No. I mean, I work on it. It's a constant, but I actually work on it. I think about it, I work on it. And then when you're coming from a place where you didn't have it and you say, okay, I didn't really have it in so many areas, but I want to have it, then when you see opportunities to carry it through, then you see the opportunities to carry it through. We're flawed human beings. We're all the same in that retrospect. None of us are perfect. None of us are going to be perfect except for Christ, and that is just fact. So, that being the case, if we can live this life just working towards that, just working towards it without ever receiving it, it goes to the ultimate dopamine hit. Meaning, if that's what you're striving for, and you actually can never achieve it, and there's no real monetary aspect behind it, I think that's why he gave us the gift of dopamine to chase something, because he wanted to give us that gift to chase him, not to chase
mm,
cars and houses and success.
my, my mother used to, I don't know if you know this, my mother was a nun for 8 years prior to me. And so we've had all these conversations around this. And one of the things that she learned watching the Cuban Revolution was that she believed at the time that it was okay for people to die for the cause of the revolution, but the end justified the means. And what she realized was that when people got into power, if they killed their way into power, the only skill they had practiced when they were confronted with challenges was to kill. And so if you are a tyrant on your way into power, you'll be a tyrant while you're in power.
Yeah.
And she said the road to heaven needs to be heaven. And so there's and so to me, this is also why I've always said I've said this for the last several years, that I think people focus on their why so much, but I think our how is even more important, because the how is how I manifest my treatment of another person. It's how I actually live. My how is like, oh yeah, this guy has a great why, but he was an asshole along the way. Okay, well, at the end, are people going to remember your why? Or are they going to remember how you treated them? And
Yeah,
it's
they're
the
going to
how.
remember. Yeah, they're going to remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, yeah.
How you made them feel. I don't even know if it was how you treated them, because sometimes you could treat people badly, but over time you make them feel really good, right? So you have that tough love, so to speak. I've had those people
Yep.
that just, I can look back and, oh, they made me feel. And I think if we keep people's feelings, their feelings, not our feelings, at the forefront, then that makes things a whole lot easier in building relationships and loyalty and everything else through our clients and business too.
100%. And I think that adding to that is when I think about what you did, it's the things that you did. Were you a good person along the way? And, I think that we get so caught up in destination and we forget about journey. The journey is the life. The journey is when we're actually alive. The journey is where the memories are made. The journey is where legacy is built. And we say, well, once I get there, then I think it's one of the most dangerous phrases,
Yeah,
because you are revealing your perseverance in the journey. You celebrate it at the end,
you
right?
celebrate
But
at the end.
then, yeah, and at the end, there's this almost the beginning of another journey to persevere even further, because
Yeah.
I don't think there's any end to it, which I think is a beautiful thing. I think
Yeah, I
it's a
think it's
beautiful thing.
great to look at the goal and be like, man, that goal's exciting, or I can't wait until that happens, and all of that stuff. But say when this happens, then, it's there's no guarantee with any of that. I just had a friend of
I'll
mine
save
who's in
money
my
when I
wedding.
have more.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And listen, no one thinks about really getting. Most people don't think about getting healthy until they're sick, and
Yeah,
that's
it's so
and I think
true.
that's the biggest one.
I think somewhere it was says something along the lines of when you can handle the little things, we will soon entrust you with much, or something like that. It's we prove ourselves in the little moments and those little details before we get the big things. I'll follow up once I have better systems, or once there's so many if this then that. And so let's go through. I'd love to get through, like, what are the perseverance principles? Walk me through each one of those.
All right, so there's seven of them. First is the discomfort zone. So it's what is that thing that you avoid that's held you back? That we all know that held us back. Some people it's a chip on our shoulder and that propels us, but it's only going to propel you so far. But for I think a lot of people, it's what holds us back. It's our insecurities, our fear of failure. That is addressing the discomfort zone. What is it, and how can you push through it? Then that pushes us to principle two, which is developing self leadership, which is you leading instead of external circumstances, people, things leading you in a direction, which is like, hey, which direction do I really want to go in, and who's really steering this now? For instance, I'll give you an example. There's an 8-year-old version of myself that was driving the car for a long time. So maybe this was a part of myself in a period of time. And we all have this part of ourselves that, like people say, okay, my parents got divorced when I was 10, and they're just angry all the time. And it really goes back to that maybe when your parents got divorced when you were 10, right? And that's just a more common thing. But what happens is when you're 45, 48 years old and you're still angry and you have that anger about when you were 10, you need to understand is like, do you need the 10-year-old driving your business, the 10-year-old driving your family, the 10-year-old driving your car? It's like you got to go back to that 10-year-old and you have to make peace and talk to the 10-year-old and get that 10-year-old on track. You have to accept them for what they are, how they feel, but let them know that you're now driving the car and where it is that you're going. Because that 10-year-old will take you in all different directions. And we have all these experiences and parts that we let drive. And I think once we know where we want to go, then that's number three, which is putting those plans into practice. What are those plans? What are those habits? And actually implementing them. So when we talked about, going through and you had mentioned persevering by, waking up, going to the gym. Well, hey, if you know that you want to now self leadership and lose weight and be in the best shape of your life, well, then putting the plans into practice, waking up every day and going to the gym is one of them.
Mm,
And to do that, really, number four is going to be the biggest lift, and that's tapping into a support system.
yeah.
And you have
Mm,
to have support systems in everything. So you can have support system for finances, for spirituality, for work, for family, for marriage. I mean, if you just think and build a board of directors of people that are the very best in each of those categories that you can see and go after. I mean, I have so many people that I counsel in so many different areas, even before making large purchases that I can easily afford. I make sure that I make that call. Hey, what do you think? And then I get a yes or no. That's where you start doing those things and having people that have been on the path further before you. Then you can start doing principle five, which is stacking those consistent wins. And then that's the word is consistency, not every now and again, not once in a while, but being consistent. And listen, we're gonna veer away from our consistency sometimes. Don't get me wrong. There was the other day I missed the gym for the first time in a long time. I just I didn't sleep well. That happens. But the day after, I was in the gym. Today, I'm in the gym. So it's course correcting and stacking those. And then to get to principle six, which is creating financial security, you're not going to be able to create actual security around finances, which varies for all of us. I think financial security is where the money that you saved creates enough interest to pay for your lifestyle. For me, that's financial security. And that's not going to happen until you've gotten through all of the other principles. You can stack wins, but if you're not consistent with it, it's not going to happen. And then the seventh principle is going to be building the road to your legacy, which is what is that legacy? What is it you want to look like? Because it's the last one. Because if you created financial security, so many people think that it's financial security that is your legacy that you leave behind until you hit that. And then you realize, okay, well, cool. My great great grandkids are going to have no idea who I am, are going to be financially secure. Who cares?
mm.
Like, what really do I want them to have? And what are the things that I want to leave them other than just some money, some cash, which who knows if it's even going to be necessary at that time, right? We don't know.
Yeah.
So that kind of takes you through the mindset of all of those things. And those are the things that I didn't realize that I was traveling through back in 08, 09, which is one of the examples in the book in early childhood, that these were the things that I was going through at the time. But in reflection, we had this framework for the book that came out through a lot of extensive therapy with multiple therapists, and then going through the branding exercise and kind of pulling out this framework. And that's where this book came from. It wasn't really an intentional, hey, I'm going to go write a book, as you know.
Yeah.
And so now sharing these with people, it's really more, it's a playbook. It's not just my story, it's a playbook
Yep.
that you can use.
That's what I loved, by the way, that there's elements of your story that lend to the actionable insights that you have. So it's a manual. Okay, here is the step-by-step process to do these things. And I wanted to say this, as I listen to these things, they almost can sound cliche: discomfort zone, financial legacy, things that we've heard. But I think the answers to life are cliches because they're so fundamentally true. But I've learned, when I hear somebody who's living these things and living a life that I look towards, I go, okay, where's the basic thing that I'm missing? Because you execute these things at an extraordinary level. There's that other cliche that says it's not about doing extraordinary things, it's about doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. And these are things that are so foundational, but you sequence them out. And what I was always listening to these things, almost like the first 5, I think, are just not sexy at all, to get to 6, which is the money.
Yeah.
And then you realize that's not even the goal. It's the 7th. But you have to go through the first 5 to get to the one that we think is important, only to realize that there's another purpose. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, 100%. That's exactly it. It's like normally people would stop at 6 and they would merge 6 and 7 together. And so as you go through 7, you'll really see that. And, let's be honest, the 10 commandments were kind of cliche, and we couldn't even do the 10. So then he narrowed it down to
Exactly.
1, love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? Like,
Cliche.
and we can't even do that. So it doesn't matter how cliche it is. I think that, I think the principles and the commandments and all of these things are cliche to keep it simple, because we tend to complicate things. And when things are too complicated, they don't get done.
Well, they're cliche because they're so true. I always say cliches are the first viral content.
Yeah.
Because everyone said, I heard it. They're like, oh my God. And they say it. And the next person would say it. The next person would say it. And this virality of oral tradition and oral sharing. I did. The Bible was cliche. The 10 Commandments were cliche. That's another one. I'm going to be stealing that one. My friend JJ Mazzo said. And I love it because I think it's such a good conversation. Now, you've also taken this to the next level to bring these things to life, because I always remember when you said you're starting a coaching company. I'm like, why, dude? You're never going to make the same amount of money. He goes, René, because I have to. This is something that you have to share, which I thought was really, really cool. And also, what I've also find is that most coaches have very few, I have to be very careful, are ones that haven't actually experienced the success they're trying to coach people towards. And there's a very select few coaches out there that are, number one, still in the grind, have a massive accumulation of the successes that people are trying to get at, live those things out. You and your group are one of them, a collection of them. So tell me about Impact and Impact Elite, because I saw this, I'm like, this is the dream team. Like this is literally the dream team. I would make, if I go back in this industry, I might just make one phone call. JJ, just tell me what to do, when to do it, no questions asked. And I know where that would lead me.
Yeah, it was for us. It was, we came from our previous employer, and it was an amazing foundation, and it was a great boot camp, if you will. And I think most of the partners and I, we took that thing about as far as we can, right? We drove the car as fast as we possibly could, but there was so much left on the table that we wanted to share that we weren't allowed to share in that framework. It was just, and I get it. There, you have certain rules in high school. You're not teaching pro rules in high school or college, so to speak. So we decided, like, hey, let's do something that's going to be different, but has some of the obvious fundamentals. Make sure that it's evolved, and we're constantly evolving it. and constantly challenging each other to make it better, each event be better, our curriculum to be better, the ideas around it to be better, and not get complacent and comfortable with just doing the same thing, and then teaching the things that allow us not to, I think the biggest thing we talk about is how to make more in less time. All the founders were all, do high level volume in the business, but all of us don't work more than 15 hours a week in our personal production business. There's a framework, a strategy that we all follow to do that. And we want to share that with others. And it doesn't happen overnight, but man, if you've been doing this a long time, it's sure nice to know that there's a way to get there.
15 hours a week and you're doing $100 million. That's ridiculous.
Well, I think the point is the collective is we're always at the point of sale. So if you're collectively always at the point of sale, and everybody else, all the team members are doing what they do at a super high level, then you can decide. So some of us are going to be working 30 hours a week, but those guys on our founders are doing 300 million a year. So, I'm doing 100 working 15. He's going to do 300 working 30. That's fine. I'm running a division and doing a coaching company. So what do you want to do with that time is up to you. But you can be the quarterback, don't get me wrong, but even Tom Brady now owns part of the Raiders, and he's having a real good time doing it, and he probably makes a whole heck of a lot more money doing it as well. So I think there is a part where you become a coach, you become a GM, or become an owner of something, and that's fulfilling too, because you can help people grow and develop other people through the process that you had gone through too.
I love that. Needless to say, I highly recommend working with you, anybody on the team, you, Haley, the rest of Gavin. I mean, you guys are all one dear friends, but all live the things that you guys do. So much respect to what you guys are doing. So I'll give the last words to you. What do you want people to know? First, how to get a hold of you? How do we get this book? Because I know I have one, because I know this is still pre-sale, isn't it?
Yeah, that's author copy, buddy. So you got one of the first. Thank you.
Oh, I'm holding this one.
Yeah,
so, I'm holding this one, dear.
It comes out. They ship out October 7th, so next week. So we're pushing hard to hit the bestseller list, as you know, which is pre-sales do that, and that week. That's all. That's pretty much what we got. So they can find us at perseveranceprinciples.com. They can find me on Instagram, JJ Mazzo _ or also they can go to Barnes & Noble or Amazon as well. But if they go to our website and they do bulk sales, they get a bunch of freebies and playbooks and stuff like that too.
So, folks, here's the thing. Here's what I want you guys to do. If you're watching this, don't just buy one. Buy them for the people that you care about. Buy them for your kids. Buy as many of these things as you can, because one, you're helping out a really good person in this, but two, this is a great gift. These things, this is a gift. No matter what anybody's in, learning from somebody like this, grab a bunch of these things, and if you can, grab a case, because if you're in industry, you want referrals, you want to open a door, say, hey, I found this book. This becomes a really good referral source, a referral opener, a conversational opener for your VIPs. Host an event, put those in the chair. These are great things to drive great conversations. But make sure you tag JJ, follow him on Instagram, all of those different pieces. I love using my channel to support people that I care about, but also more importantly, for people that are doing the work themselves. I love the integrity side of this. So JJ, brother, I'm going to give you the last words. One, I'm going to say, freaking love you, man. I love what you're doing. I love that this is happening. I'm so proud of you for doing this. I'm so excited for you. And send us off, man. What are the last words here?
No, thank you again, man. All the net proceeds go to charity. So Orange County Rescue Mission and Robin's Nest, which are underserved teenagers that are abandoned and also homeless. So, this was a whole purpose-driven thing. So all of the net proceeds are going to go to. So
buy twice as many as I told you to buy, because I didn't know that part of it.
Yeah. So all of that goes, I promise. And I think, man, if you're going through it right now, especially in real estate or lending, those of you going through it right now, there's so much uncertainty and it's been so hard for 3 years. This is a really good place to start, because I do revisit some of the 08, 09, and that's where a lot of this framework came. I promise it'll be uplifting and great to share with your realtors or other loan officers and colleagues and stuff like that. But if you're just in business, and there's some really good stories in here, not just mine, and it's a quick and easy read, because if you know me, I need quick and easy reads. I'm like children's books for me, buddy. So thank you again for having me. I'm so grateful for you.
Absolutely, brother. Well, thank you again for tuning in today to the Amplify podcast, and make sure you get the book, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for sharing this time with us. If the experience resonated with you, follow us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or AmplifyMyLife.com. Share it with anyone else who's ready to amplify their lives. And remember to let our hearts speak in sequence. For more from René Rodriguez, visit meetrenee.com.